Hello and namaste to all of you watching this episode of the Economic Times Cutting Choice Stories brought to you by ET Edge. Every story has something valuable for us. Some stories inspire us, some motivate us, some change the way we think, and some stories move us. And today at Cutting Choice Stories, we bring to you yet another story of an achiever, a leader who has created many success stories in his career journey. But that's not all. We will also try and get to know better the person that he is when he is not in work mode. We'll share with all you viewers not only his professional journey, but also let you have a glimpse of his personal attributes. So I'm sure you're all looking forward to this engaging episode. Quickly grab your cup of cutting chai and enjoy this conversation. The leader joining us today is Shekhar Priyadarshi. Shekhar is Consulting Chief Technology Officer at Sagacito Technologies, where he's responsible for running day-to-day operations and product stewardship for broadcast revenue optimization. He brings 25 plus years of experience in senior technology leadership positions, working with MNCs, Silicon Valley startups, and product companies. He's deeply passionate about applied analytics and machine learning and has led robotic automation-based products for customers and implementation in various industry verticals. He has lived and worked in the United States of America, Middle East, Europe, Singapore, Australia, and India. He's also the owner of Logixica, Pre-Shea Consultancy Private Limited, and of course, he has played many leadership roles before that at various organizations, of which we shall be talking in a bit. For now, let's welcome him and get this conversation started. So a very warm welcome, Shekhar, and thank you for joining us for this candid conversation.
Thank you very much, Deipti. It's all pleasure.
So absolutely, it's our pleasure too. Let's get started with this chat. We'll go back to your foundation, the early years of your life and your childhood. So please tell us about your family, your friends, your school days. What were they like and how were you as a child?
Well, I was naughty to say the very least. Those are the many instances do I remember. I was brought up in a combined or united family, typical united family. My grandpa was an educationalist and he firmly believed that his education style is the best, and I was his like pilot. Okay, so he would experiment new educational techniques on me. My uncle was a doctor for underserved areas. He wanted me to be a doctor for him, and he would take me to multiple areas with him. My dad was a project engineer, very passionate, and he worked in many parts of India, Kerala, Andhra. He was a mining and civil geology, some point that I didn't bother to check. So I have been brought up in all these three tutelages. Sometimes I would be in Kerala, then I will go to deep tribal area with my uncle. Sometimes my grandpa would bring me to the education area that he was in charge of. And I ended up being in 17 schools until I was in 10th standard. So I was kind of a rolling mouse. Okay, so that's my childhood. I didn't get many friends because I was in multiple schools. But what I did get is an extraordinary exposure of the India diversity because I have been in so many states. So that's about my childhood. Not very typical, but still very extravagant, I would say, in terms of experience.
Absolutely not typical in any sense. And what a great childhood you had. 17 schools, that's really something. And absolutely. And could you tell us any early life lessons that you have learned at school or from your parents or during this time? I'm sure one of the traits that you have picked up is that of adaptability. It's not very easy to, get attached to something, to your surroundings, to your environment, to people, and then leave them, let them go and move on to, further in your life to different things. That may be a bit of a challenge, especially when you're young. So how easy was that for you? And also any other learnings that you had from, your family members or anyone else when you were growing up?
Yes, quite a bit, actually. Few instances I remember is my uncle, who I said was a doctor, for around around 50 villages or 3 towns. He was the only doctor in that time. And it was used to be the flooded area where the Kosi river would be in flood all the time. And I remember one instance where he was running a floating hospital on boats. And there were like 200 patients on 200 boats, each being fed a saline injection because there was a cholera outbreak. And I happened to see that. And one of the things I derived is no money can actually take out this satisfaction when these 200 people would be back to their lives. So this was my first impression of what lovely profession a medical profession would be. There are few other instances. I have been in villages, I have been in big cities, I have been in small towns. One of the things I do realize is how much freedom as a child we had when we were in school. I mean, the kids these days would really not have those privileges. So from that perspective, uh, I realized very quickly that, having a good social outlook is one of the best assets you have. Hopefully I carry it still today. I always seem to have friends. With this meeting also, I will go ahead with some of my friends for life now. So few lessons is that job satisfaction is, yes, money can bring, but there's more to it. And few is that there's always a social bonding that helps you do things in a better way.
Absolutely. What a great learning. And I'm sure all our viewers are listening to this. Um, absolutely. Society at large, looking at the larger picture beyond your role and beyond your job, takes you places and gives you a holistic and well balanced approach. So, very well said there, Shekhar. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll move on to your college days. You studied at Visvesvaraya National Institute of
Yes,
Technology, where you received your Master of Technology in Industrial
right,
Engineering. You
right.
got your CSQA and Six Sigma Green Belt certifications. You also went to Nagpur University where you got your Bachelor of Engineering and you were a gold medalist there. So,
Yes.
round of applause for that. And tell us about these days. What were these days like? And any instances that you recall during these college days that have shaped you as a person, or any such memories that have had an impact on you?
I have all but positive. I mean, everything about those experiences a positive memory. Yes, I did my graduation from a place called Chandrapur in Vidarbha, Chandrapur Engineering College, we used to call it. These days it is in news because it seems to be the hottest place on the earth right now. We had good experience all across. Chandrapur is known to be surrounded by this place called Tadoba, where you could cycle down to see a tiger. Okay, so I had the privilege for this. We would cycle around in the middle of the night just to get a glimpse of a tiger or few wild animals, to say the least. Very good experience. We also had the volunteered ourselves to this blood transfusion. There was a unit, I don't recall, some unit of Blood Cross. We were in hostel, 200 plus students. So practically every other day, someone would show up. Oh, this child is getting delivered. The mother needs blood. Someone had and those days, there were no such good ways to store the blood as today. So I ended up being a very good blood donation volunteer. Then I had the privilege to go to this place where there were a lot of flood. So we went there in neck deep, like this water, as volunteers to save lives and to help the people who have got into the flood. And it was not something because I wanted to do it. I wanted to do this. Everyone was going, so I went there. And then I realized when I got down is the immense sense of satisfaction of saving lives in whatever capacity I could. Yes, the studies were good. We ended up building the first hydrogen-based, hydrogen-fired. I'm a mechanical engineer in degree, ended up being in computer. So hydrogen-fired internal combustion engine, that was 91. And I'm glad to see that it's now seeing the light of the day. The world is realizing that hydrogen would be one of the ways to go. I also volunteered for nuclear fusion concept those days, and I got a chance later in this career right now, I mean a year and a half ago, where I partnered with one of the scientists to do internship in nuclear fusion. So I firmly believe that these areas are the ones which will take us to the next century, inshallah. So some good experiences there. Nothing bad, I have to say.
Absolutely wonderful experiences are that. And I think two things come to my mind when we talk about your childhood and your college days, and that's passion and creativity. And of course, a lot of social approach also. So, so much passion and creativity early on. I think you always had an inclination towards this industry. And that's one of the reasons for your success. During these years, any mentors that you looked up to, sir, or any particular person who has influenced you, or you just learned from all these situations around you?
No, I have been lucky to get a mentorship, dedicated mentorship all my life. Even today, I mean, it goes without saying, someone who you can open your heart to and be really who you are and still be accepted. So in childhood, it was my grandpa. I told you he was an educationalist and I was his pilot. So he shaped, he would make me remember Rashmi Rathi. It was one of his favorite novels by Ramdari Singh, not novel, it's a poetry by Rashtravi Ramdari Singh Dinkar, if you recall him. So at one point I could recite the whole of Rashmi Rathi. And later in my career, there was, in my engineering, there was a Dikshit sir who himself was a very accomplished scientist. And I really learned the values that scientists are delivering. It's a very thankless job. I don't know how many of you see this. You can work on 100 ideas and on one or two would get success. People don't see what those 100 ideas were. They see only these two who worked. So the acceptance of failure as a creativity is something that you learn. Still today, if one or two things work, there are 100 things which do not. Don't get bogged down by all this. So this is how the world goes. I think the greatest of the scientists would, not remember the many days that they would like to remember. It's a gloomy, thankless, helpless nights before the success blooms. So yes, they did. So I was blessed with a lot of mentors during my college days. When I came to MTech, one of my teachers was, he's not in the world these days. He was really my mentor. And, I chose him as my project guide because I liked his, white beard demeanor, only to realize that he was one of the world's known experts in ergonomics, which is probably the area that we all of us should delve into. We are scientists, and those who are creative bent of mind would essentially get into one or these two areas where it's just because of passion. So thank you very much for asking this. I remember Dikshit sir now. I remember the scientist. Even now I have a mentor. His name is Prabhat Ranjan. He's I think, registrar or deputy registrar, I don't care. He's a scientist in Pune University, where he works on nuclear fusion. So I have been blessed with these people's company all the way.
Absolutely. So one of the benefits of doing interviews is that you go down memory lane and you relive all those
Thank
memories.
you so much.
And of course, you've been around some great minds, some great doctors, scientists, and absolutely noble professions who give so much to society. So moving on now, we'll get into your professional life. Let's delve into your professional life. A lot of our viewers who are watching this would want to know about your professional journey and the learnings from it. So in the past, you have been associated with TCS for many, many years.
Yes.
You've been with Capital, MSO, Health Access Solutions, Meditab Software, etc. So can you in brief take us through your career journey, the experiences you've had in these organizations, and any important learnings that you would like to share with our viewers?
Oh, yes. So after my completion of the graduation, where I took up industrial engineering, while doing industrial engineering, I realized the power of automation. 96. This is 95, 96. And that's how I chose TCS as the career, where I would delve deep into programming and express my creativity through programming languages. So I joined TCS in 96. I did a couple of ERP implementations. Those time ERP implementation was your gateway to a lot of money with Oracle ERP and SAP and so on and so forth. But somehow I found it slow. So I went back to where you could get into what today we call is high speed development. Then I went to Singapore, where I was working for, I mean, from the TCS perspective, of course, I worked for some very good customers, then eventually got associated with General Electric. General Electric that time was TCS's one of the largest customers. We used to get around 15 to 20% of the TCS revenue through General Electric. And those were the days where, General Electric was really one of the best companies. I learned the power of Six Sigma. I learned the power of statistics, and the GE way of working is data is the right. So first collect the data, digitization. In many ways, what they did was really good. But the reason I enjoyed working in General Electric was they're really a creative company. So I got associated with GE Power, who used to make turbines, but very quickly they realized that making turbines is good, but having services associated with turbines is where they would get the money. So I essentially spent a lot of time with GE Energy Services. I really saw the businesses growing up from scratch. So someone would do a master big Six Sigma project and come up with a business idea, and then do a really good project, set up a business, do a pilot, really Six Sigma way. And essentially I saw 3 or 4 large business churners coming out. That was the best experience of our life before we came back in TCS. And then I worked in NBC for a while. It was a different world. So I worked in both studios as well as the network. Studios is, so I watched the French show. I would get the passes to watch that French show. That was the perk of my job. You could get into one of those daily shows that you have in Burbank. That was the jazzy part. Then 9/11 hit us. So I ran for my life in 9/11 in New York. And then we decided to come back to India. Fortunately, after some time, I got into the government execution part of TCS. That's where I saw the power of a good e-governance project in India's progress. And I got hooked to it. So then I left everything else. I thought I will finish this. So essentially, I started building this project for TCS called VAT implementation. So, and it was in Gujarat, where essentially I found my abode in the long run. So people used to say, Gujarat na what lagi you, which means, you know what it means.
Yeah.
So the power of this was that before VAT implementation, I'm talking 2003, 2004, the state's revenues through VAT was 9,000 crores, and it went to 16,000 crore in a year and a half. That was my best moment of my life, where I could see that without just an system implementation would make your revenues go double. Then I was associated with one project called HMIS, Healthcare Management System, which was essentially roll out the healthcare across the Gujarat. Good deed never goes unpunished. So we had some good time and bad times also. But essentially, I became the beneficiary of this system after 15 years. We implemented way back in 2004, 2005. And in 2022, 2021 year end, which is around 6 months back, my mother had a kind of a heart attack where she had, very little time to live. the nearest possible hospital ambulances were 26 minutes away and so on and so forth before I ended up calling 108. And the state-run ambulances showed up in 3 minutes. In another 7 minutes, I was in hospital. Another 7 minutes in ICU. Another 15 minutes later, I was in emergency. So in 45 minutes flat in a government hospital, my mother's life was saved. Thanks to, again, the automation and the end-to-end working. So that's how it is. Then I took up the leadership role, really implemented some large implementations in TCS, one being the Saudi telecom. In a way, Saudi is similar to our India's system, government system, well oiled, working very well before they realize that we don't have a lot of time before private players come up. So I spent some very good time in 3 years, around 2.5 years in Saudi telecom. Came back, and then my product thing again started itching my hand. So I started building platform solutions for TCS. We built it, sold it. Then I essentially again I went back to US. Then I had a P&L to run for the platform services. So our products were doing very good. I handed it over to the next generation. Came back 2011. That time again, I had the liberty of having one of the best mentors that IT could have, was Mr. Abid Ali Nimachwala, who essentially went on to become Wipro CEO. And I also worked with Chandra, who's head of data right now. So these were the best brains available then. So I told him, give me something where I could really create. And so they did a clandestine project. Clandestine means they didn't want it to come up to everyone's notice because it was too early. So I was working with Tata scientists, TRDDC scientists, to build a robotic automation of our own. Essentially, it took us 2 years, but we built an in-house robotic automation. Other companies also did it and they commercialized it. Our motivation was different. Our motivation was that we had around $1 billion of BPO. And those units were acquired 6 or 7 years ago. I'm talking 2012, 13, telling that we are tech units, we will do you much quicker. And now someone else could do it to us, telling that, we are technical units, we can do better than TCS. So we needed something which was essentially so cutting edge that it would give us edge in the market. So this robotic automation provided that edge. We could increase our productivity by great numbers. I mean, I'm not at liberty to tell you, but that step was really great. We built robotic automation, and then third-party products came in. Then I was presenting in Cincinnati, where someone offered me a good deal of money to build a brand new product of their own. They didn't know how it would work, but that's how I ended up joining Meditab and the other units after TCS. So I left TCS in 2014 and then built this pharmacy robot. I mean, I was part of the team which built the pharmacy robot. The idea was very simple. In the US Medicare, you need to have 24/7 coverage. Essentially, it would require 5 or 6 pharmacists in a pharmacy, 80 grants a year a pharmacy, $300,000 to $400,000 for just pharmacy business. And they used to, deliver pills, only like a handful of them. So a robot could do the job. The business idea was when you call up, someone would pick up the call in Philippines and get the drugs, personalized drug delivered in US. It took me longer than I anticipated. And then I started my own firm and then essentially ended up joining Sagacito, where we were having some challenges. Sagacito was a firm funded by Star initially, and then we built our products. Market is still ripe. There's a lot of white space. I wish there could be like 5 or 6 of us. And then that's where I am working with Sagacito. Now, of late, socialpreneurship bug has hit me. So I have published few articles in LinkedIn where I have disseminated a lot of things where I see there is a white space. No one is serving those areas. And I would be glad if someone could take up. I just took one of them that I originally anticipated and working with my socialpreneurship. So that's my journey. Sorry, it was a little longer, but you get an idea.
No, absolutely. A journey that long and that, interesting deserves such a long mention. So I'm sure our viewers will love this. We'll quickly mention also about the fact that until recently, you've been a visiting faculty at the National Institute of Cooperative Management in
Yes.
Gandhinagar. Would you like to share anything about that?
Oh,
Or
yes. Oh, yes. That's where my passion lies. So I firmly believe that if India has to be a 5 trillion economy that we all are looking for in a short while, cooperative is the way to go. And I published a lot of white paper on this in different places where I see the cooperative units being formed in any area, manufacturing, services, agriculture, animal husbandry. You talk about the area, it's already there, where the empowered units geographically who are located together could give a big, run for money to the multi conglomerates. I mean, Anand is a good example. Amul. We talk about Banaskantha Dairy is one. FPO is a concept that I am hooked. I do see that India would be greatly benefited once this FPO is farmers produce organizations where you could have local units get together and build a IPO like unit. And same concept that US has for IPA doctors is that the individual doctors cannot challenge the hospital supremacy. So what they do is they build a network of their own and give a professional organization to run. That's what cooperative is all about. So my heart, my joy knew no bounds when I heard that Government of India has actually formed a unit called Cooperative. So it's all working. I teach with the same passion. I talk to cooperative professionals in this college. And one of the things that I do talk about is the security. I have witnessed a lot of cyber instances in my career, being in software and being in industry, especially with the banking. And one of the things I quickly realized is that the weakest link in the whole chain are the less trained banking staff. Okay, they are our last line of defense, and unfortunately, they are not privileged to have the same level of corporate training that we all have. So I took it up to myself, way of giving back to society. Have trained more than around 2,000 to 3,000 banking staff on cyber security essentials. Why they should not have mirror behind their keyboard. Why some basic things, why they should not type with keyboard in open. Such mundane things, and I actually take them to train them. Hopefully, it will result into a few cyber instances not being told. So that's why I love teaching at Cyber College, before this pandemic stopped us from doing so.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn from you, Shekhar, and we have still so many questions to ask you, but we also have another session. So we'll try to gather as much as we can. We'll now come to your leadership style. So could you tell us over the years, what are the leadership traits or, your team skills that you have picked up or developed naturally, which you hold on to? So in short, we'd like to know, how do you lead your team and where did you pick up your team skills?
Well, here is where I mean, everyone has the people that we work with are more or less fall into same bracket of IQ, more or less have got the same education, more or less have gone the same external circumstances, same family background, same social background. So with little background, I don't see a lot of differences in a star performer and a guy on the bottom performer, given that their background and everything is same. So I have, from the time management perspective, leadership perspective, I personally believe in deep work versus shallow work. So in your day's work, there has to be 3 or 4 sessions in a day where you do deep work. You cannot do it all day long. And as long as me and my team can pull that off, we are good to go. We work in creative industry, so deep sessions would help. So, I have done some work and it works for me, where me and my team, if individually can pull 3 or 4 deep work sessions, other shallow work sessions are okay. Agile has brought new kind of opportunities. So there was no one more happier than me, especially when it comes to creative thinking, is the agile way of methodology. Now these days tools are so good that you don't really have to chase the human to do the work. Just chase the work. So I have never chased people in my team on where they were. I didn't have to. There was no reason for me to. As long as Jira says that they are working. Jira is the tool that we use for agile methodology. So this works pretty well. So long story short, everyone is good. Okay, they just need directions, and not everyone has to work 9 or 10 hours of deep work all the day. It has to be a mixture of small and deep. I believe in Pomodoro principle. If someone can pick up 2 or 3 Pomodoros a day, we are good. So I never had the issue of team members not performing, or I never had the issue of, oh my God, what will we do? Things work out. But it has to be constant, consistent effort. Agile allows us. Follow Agile, you should be okay.
Right. Well, absolutely well said. And thank you for sharing that. And especially the Pomodoro technique is very, very essential for time management and to get great productivity. So once again, I reiterate, so much to learn from you, but we'll quickly move on. We'd like to know, how do you keep investing in yourself to keep improving your skills? Things are changing rapidly, especially in technology. You're already doing so much, but I'm sure you must be doing something to keep, updating yourself or improving upon your skills. So.
Oh, yes. So, things are changing in so many areas and in so many directions that we cannot focus on all areas. So we have to pick few and we have to leave few. Or for that matter, anyone, unless you are Elon Musk, is you can be good in everything. So there are 2 or 3 areas that I have chosen that I think the world would go towards, and focusing my area, this direction in that. IoT, very good. It has reached maturity where people would see. I have picked up for myself the areas which is hologram, the whole AR area. And the last few days when I saw that NASA actually went and sent a doctor virtually to the spacecraft. So this is a technique which will be virtualization or virtual presentation. That would be, I believe, will be the future. So I keep reading about it a lot, do proof of concept. So I believe that let's say Mr. Vikram Mulya is the honcho of the company. He can be 10 meetings at once in not a distant future from now. So those are the technologies I am reading. I'm sure it might not exist. It might not be that hit, but it will definitely hit the people. Second thing is the whole near real time. See, I have been in media industry and I see ad exchanges. Ad exchanges are the one which render ad to you in like 25 millisecond, 1/10 of a second. I see that this technology of ad exchanges could go in the normal area. So there are already things like, if you and I are talking and someone realizes our topic, it would show the advertisement of our interest on the right side. Doctors would see, spacecraft would see, aeroplane would see, scientists would see, everyone. So these are the 2 areas I have chosen to myself to invest in. The rest all I am alone. So I will pick up a career probably in this direction for the rest of the year. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely does. Thank you so much for sharing that once again. And we now would like to know about your hobbies and interests. So please tell us about that, and how do you maintain the work-life balance?
When your work is your life, there's no such thing as work-life balance. Okay. I work from home, which came as a like a. I'm blessed with young, twins, 8 years old, and they work from home as well. They're schooling from home. So am I. So life is all around in home. So is work. So nothing to complain. I don't think work from home anyone would complain on work-life balance. It's really doing good. When we go back and we will stuck into 2 hours traffic, when we neither doing work nor doing life, then we'll worry about work-life balance. As goes to the hobbies, what about my hobbies? Okay, well, I used to be. There are few areas that I am really passionate about. One is that there are a lot of languages which are dying in India. So I take my mother tongue, which is Maithili. So whatever time that allows, I ensure that it gets revived and into that area. So that's what takes the rest of my life. If that answers your question. Hindi literature is another one which if time allows, I read. I used to like Gaura Pant. She's called Shivani. She was called Shivani. She's not there. So I have read probably every line that she had written. I really enjoy her Hindi, but whenever time allows. So that's all about me.
Absolutely amazing. And your profile also mentions that you like programming. So it mentions CTO by day and programmer at night. So I'm sure you keep doing that as well.
Right. When you are a product owner, there is no way you can avoid. Okay. So so the product life cycle goes like this. And as a CTO, my job is to ensure that it remains at the top of edge as long as it can. That doesn't happen until you really invest yourself, understand the many technologies and see how it can work. So I'm doing around 10 to 12 proof of concept at any given point of time. I come from an operation research background where I've done my MTech. So I try to apply that in any area that I could find. So that keeps me busy for my programming. I really find this, some of the algorithms of vision algorithms, etc. Really, I mean, not to try your hands on it. It's so lucrative to, just look at, go to your, learning methodology and just kick out of it. Unless you do it, you won't realize the power of it. That's why I keep programming in the night whenever time allows.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much indeed, Shekhar, for sharing your valuable learnings and experiences with our viewers and for this very engaging and interesting conversation. Well, viewers, that was Mr. Shekhar Priyadarshi, CTO at Sagacito Technologies. And we hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories. Stay tuned for more.